Okay, we should have started the live event now.
That looks good on my end. Mike, want to kick us off?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Y'all can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Just a reminder to those who are joining from outside this working group that today is an opportunity to observe a working session, not a public engagement opportunity where you get to participate. So we're just asking you to listen in and learn how things are being done. For those who are on the working group, this is, again, not an event where you are talking to the public, but simply a working session where people are observing your work. So work as if no one were watching, and I'll turn it over to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. Got a number of people on the phone and a number of people in the room, so I think we'll go ahead and do the roundabout introductions so everybody knows who's who. Karen, can we start with you? Work this way.
Yeah, Karen Helfrich with Pioneer Technical Services, assist Atlantic Richfield, and I'm the project manager for the Butte Reduction Works site. Evans with Woodard and Curran. I'm on the Buffalo Gulch and Copper Mountain projects.
Patty Stoy, also with Woodard and Curran, primarily on Grove Gulch and Lexington projects.
Wilder Byrne with Woodard and Curran, primarily with Buffalo Gulch and Grove Gulch.
Scott Bradshaw with Woodard and Curran, a project manager for Buffalo Gulch.
Andy White with Aspect Engineering supporting Richfield.
Josh Bryson, liability manager at Atlantic Richfield, the BPSOU corridor projects.
Rich Geelan with Aspect, supporting Josh.
Tim Hillo, Atlantic Richfield liability manager. I'm helping Josh with the designs.
I'm Daryl Reed with DEQ. I'm the state project officer.
I'm Caleb Gills with Pioneer Technical Services. I assist Karen on BRW a little bit, and then on Dickens East project manager.
I'm Emma Rott, the Remedial project manager for the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, for BPSOU.
Carolina Ballou with EPA. I'm the Montana supervisor.
That's everybody we have in the room. Catherine, I don't know that I can see everybody online, so I can see a few. I see Cord Harris.
Yeah, Cord Harris with Jacobs. We're doing the environmental construction on some of the leading projects.
Thanks, Cord. I see a Mike with no last name.
That's Mike, our facilitator. I can introduce myself. I'm Catherine Jenkins. I'm a community involvement coordinator with EPA.
Thanks, Catherine. Molly?
Good morning, Molly Roby, one of the other remedial project managers for BPSOU, supporting mainly the RMAP work.
Molly, Pat Canine? So his mic is muted. It's not a little symbol to see. Joe Griffin?
Yeah, Joe Griffin with Citizens Technical Environmental Committee.
Mackenzie Meter?
Hi there, I'm Mackenzie Meter. I'm a community involvement coordinator with the EPA.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Ramsey?
Ramsey Curry, I'm the engineering manager for the for Jacobs for this program implementation.
Ramsey. Devin?
Devin Forrest, Woodard and Curran, primarily working on Buffalo Gulch side.
Jim?
Jim Ford, the Natural Resource Damage Program.
Thanks, Jim. Ian Magruder.
Ian Magruder, Technical Advisor for CTEC, Citizens Technical Advisory Committee.
Thanks, Ian. Josh Vincent.
Hey, Josh Vincent with WET, technical support for Butte Silverbow.
David Schneid.
Hello, David Schneid with CDM Smith. I'm also here with Joe Gilbert. We're EPA contractors.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Dave. Sydney Stewart.
Sydney Stewart with the Natural Resource Damage Program.
Hi, Sydney. Let's see. I think I saw Troy Colvin. He might have dropped.
Yeah.
You there?
Hey,
Okay.
everyone. Yeah. Troy Colvin with Pioneer Technical, project manager for Northside Tailings, as well as the Casey Street water line and the BPSOU pump station.
Thanks, Troy. Eric Hassler.
I'm Eric Hassler with Butte Operable's Department of Reclamation. I want to apologize. Had every intentions of coming up this morning, but things ran over, so we're going to do it online today.
Thanks, Eric. Abby?
Abby Peltima with Butte Operable.
I think that is it. If I missed anybody, please speak up. Say hi. Okay, hearing none. Safety moment. I took this one on today. We knew it was coming. Unanticipated biological hazards. So, you know, Helena shuts down schools when they have a moose in town. Butte just rolls on when an elephant escapes. This really came to mind past weekend when I started seeing wasps again when I was traveling. So I think it's the season where we start to need to be conscientious of, you know, biological hazards, including wasps, biting insects, ticks, especially when we're out implementing our field programs, our water, surface water sampling, our groundwater sampling. And then also remain cognizant when we're doing work in any surface water, because there's always the potential for needle pricks and other, you know, sharp objects. So hope everybody has a safe field season. And I hope Abby, or I think Olivia is this elephant's name, and I hope she has a long and prosperous life and she's well taken care of. We made the national news, and when Butte makes the national news, we let everybody know about it. Okay. Any other quick safety touches? Anybody in the room before we dive in? So we restructured a little bit today, trying to make things less redundant. So what we'll do is like hit the document tracker first and talk about really those critical path items like 0 to 2 weeks, maybe. And then we'll have each respective PM or design engineer talk about general schedule with each task within the program. So hopefully it goes a little bit quicker, but again, I don't want to discourage open discussion. You know, we talk about it, let's do it. So I don't know if you can share.
Yeah.
Okay.
See my screen?
Yeah, we can.
So we've got several site-wide documents upcoming here. Surface water and groundwater monitoring, or I should say just surface water monitoring, QAP and DSRs coming out within the next month, evaluation report as well. We are still waiting on comments from the groundwater monitoring QAP that was submitted in November. I updates there, but
Yeah, that was brought to my attention that we hadn't gotten comments back to you. I know that CDM Smith has conducted their review and that it was sent to the state. And so we're working with the state to get those comments back to you all.
And just to confirm, we are working under the approved plan.
Okay, yep, sounds great. Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, yep. So we'll hopefully have an update on that in the coming weeks.
thank you. And then we've got some DSRs coming out on the groundwater side and evaluation report this month or so. For tech specs, we're looking at having that delivery this week or so by May 1st. Gleaner.
I just want to touch on that a little bit to make sure everybody on the phone understands what their intent is with the technical specifications, because there's so many common elements between all the project sites. So we thought it most prudent to develop a program specification. So we don't have to resubmit concrete specs for each and every project, for example, or resubmit liner specs for each and every project. We'll try to cover every common item or the program-wide specs. And then if there's any special provisions or necessary supplemental specs with any specific project that falls outside that program level, it'll be addressed either with a supplemental specification or directly on the construction drawings. So we'll highlight those things as we need to for the review team, so you know where it is and what's applicable. Tim, anything else?
Just that Lexington specs are Lexington specs, Grove Gulch specs are Grove Gulch specs. The program specs are moving forward, starting with the Diggings East submittal that you're getting, here shortly, and it'll be for Diggings East, Northside Tailings, VRW, pump station, all of those. So, but Grove Gulch is separate. It's got its own.
But it'll serve as a nice basis because many of the specs are already for Grove Gulch. A lot of content will be repeated.
Scott. There's several documents coming out here mid-May, a greener cleanups report, a material management plan. And then I think, Karen, you're looking at the next week or so getting the construction, the CQAP, the construction quality assurance plan out. And then following by the construction monitoring QAP. Anything to note there, Karen?
No, the CQAP's going through AR internal review right now. And then we're working on the construction monitoring QAP.
Same introduction, right, Josh?
Yeah, same approach as the other ones. Instead of having, 5, whatever, how many projects we got left, 4 projects. Let's have one program level CQAP, one program level construction monitoring QAP. One's kind of corridor wide O&M plan. Half of it focusing on remedy, half of it really on the inland use. And then the materials management plan, like we're kind of talking about last week, I think this is really a key document for all of the projects to be successful.
Great. So moving on to Grove Gulch, we've had our submittal about a month ago now, and heard that there might be some other dialogue needed there. Don't know if we want to talk about any of that now or at a later time.
I think so. I guess I'll just offer that EPA is wrapping up our review of it right now, and I'm having conversations to get some documents to you of what we see this path forward. But I do think additional conversations are warranted just on some outstanding issues that we saw were not addressed from the 95 to the 100%, and some items that were new from the 95 to the 100% too that we want to talk further about to understand and get to us to a point where we can get to an approval.
Give us a heads up of what you guys think wasn't addressed from the 95 to 100.
Yeah, so I think the issues that we're seeing, well, one of the newer things, the geotech helical piers addition, that was new from the 95 to 100%. So we wanted to talk through that with you and your team because that wasn't specifically called out in the deliverable of the 100%. So we just are needing a little more information on that. I think as-built sampling is one that we want to talk about further, a little more clarity on excavation extents and backfill quantities, and then the submittal process. So that's pretty high level, but yeah, I think we're looking to have some conversations in the coming weeks with you guys about those. Okay. And I'll send a document out too that gets maybe a little bit more detailed than that, but still are flushing that through internally so that you all can come prepared for that conversation too.
I think we'll be able to have that conversation.
Hoping next week. Yeah.
Hey, this is Ian with CTEC. Did EPA and NRDP meet on April 1st about Grove Gulch?
So Ian, my understanding is that there were meetings previously after the 95% comments were submitted between EPA and NRD, and that's the last time those meetings were held.
Okay, yeah, I was reading that on the minutes from the last progress meeting in March. So it sounds like that meeting did not happen.
There were meetings that were held between EPA and NRD, Ian. I, as the project manager, have not met with NRD yet to have discussions about their comments. But at this point, we've received their comments, and now we're really just back checking comments that were submitted by EPA on the 95%, and back checking the 100% design against those, which included NRD comments, CTEC comments, DEQ comments.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Ian.
Jim Ford. Yeah, we met with EPA in December. That was the last meeting we had.
All right, sounds good.
Yep, so moving on to repository, we had a geochem analysis that might have been, was it submitted on the 17th? Is that still coming, Josh?
Let's see, sorry. The geochem analysis, we're kind of waiting to make sure we have the right field information before diving into that evaluation. So we released the data gap clap to get additional site information, and we're looking for response on that for the agencies. So the geochem analysis is TBD, I would say at this point.
And let's see, same thing with this.
Yeah, all the subsequent ones.
Great. Let's see. Repository of the data gap clap, comments received 416. Karen, can we get that back out here?
Yeah, hoping for the end of the week. Get it back to agencies. Okay.
And then targeting the committee recommendation mid-July. So.
We'll see. Yeah, I hope so.
Everything to line up, but yeah. Yeah, and same thing for the Hall Ross repository. That line up.
I'd say we're already introducing slippage to the schedule. But see where we get by May 1st of next year.
Is that missing the other QAP that was submitted?
Geotech?
Yes, the geotech and follower.
Maybe add a note for the geotech. So Emma, we have a call later today internally with the geotech.
Okay.
Try to sort back. Yeah, I didn't see much in there.
Okay.
Would that be on the hall? Sure.
Oh, see.
Buffalo Gulch, I'm looking for a mid-July submittal for that 95% submittal. Really taking a lot of what has been commented on for Grove Gulch and incorporating that into Buffalo Gulch. So hopefully that's streamlining that review. Hopefully we've got a lot of those issues that were applicable to Grove Gulch on a smaller level now being applied to Buffalo Gulch. March forward. Subdrain pump station is out of ways, end of the year. BRW, Karen, seems like we've got a couple documents upcoming here in May and June. Anything to note here, Karen?
No, we're working on the PDI-ER and the interim demo phase 2, I think is later in the agenda to discuss.
Diggings East, Caleb, looking at getting that out this week, right? 60% submittal.
It's a big.
The remedy optimization, we've got some QAPs upcoming here for mid-May. Didn't see Brent on the line. Josh, anything to add?
No, we can touch on it.
Scott.
Oh, you are. Sorry, Brent, I missed you.
Yeah. No, yeah, we've got some QAP coming along that's mid-May. It's into AR for internal review, and yeah, we hope to be submitting that we've sent out polls for scrums, and I've sent out meetings. So the idea is that we would submit that document and have a scrum to walk all the stakeholders through that document and what our approach is.
Thanks, Brian.
Actually, Scott, can you scroll up just for a second? I know that we are still waiting, and just to point out, we do have that capture treatment system performance evaluation scoping document. It was submitted 12/22. Just we're still waiting for review of that document. And I don't know. I guess I don't know if Emma's on the line, or does anybody have an update on that? And when
Brent, don't know. But I will find out. And yeah, David, if you feel free to chime in if you want.
Hey there, this is David Schneid with CDM Smith. That is on the list in the next week to discuss with Molly and Emma.
Great. Thank you, David.
Absolutely.
And moving on to the hydraulic control, Brent, similar situation for the RD work plan.
Correct. I mean, we responded draft final, but we never received the I guess agency approval on that document. I know we've generally talked about it before, and understanding the RD is a living document, but if we can close the loop on that, that would be great.
I'm sorry, Brent. Which document was that? Just
this was the original Blacktail Creek hydraulic control remedial design work plan. We submitted it back in 2022. Agency provided comments in September, almost October, and we resubmitted it in November of 2022.
Okay. I believe that's a living document. I think at this point, the agencies were nodding their head yes, but understanding that gets updated with each phase of the RD, meaning the 30, 60, 90. And so I think people were, if I can talk with Emma about this after, but that was my understanding. It just evolves with the design.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If you guys can just let us know if we're not expecting, sort of an approval, that's fine, and we'll include that note in here for subsequent meetings.
Sounds good. I'll talk with Emma about it.
Yeah, we'll get back to you shortly on that.
Yeah, in the meantime, we'll just roll it forward with integration into the 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
that's an evergreen.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so PDI evaluation report for Blacktail Creek. We're working through the EPA comments. We do have, I think, a scrum scheduled for next Wednesday to review all of the EPA comments and specific to the groundwater model. And so the hope is there we get some alignment, and then we can resubmit that report pretty soon after that meeting. And then we anticipate the 30% basis of design following that submittal. We're working on those two documents sort of simultaneously.
And I'll just add there, so that meeting next Wednesday was one that EPA that we'd previously agreed to make publicly observable, and that was flagged to me. So I'm working with EPA is working with our community involvement team to get a Teams live link similar to this one to make that one publicly observable as well.
Okay. Nope, that's good. I'm just trying to think. I did notice, I think Emma, I know that you indicated that you weren't available now for the call. Is that right?
No, I am available. It maybe was Molly who. Yeah, I'm available. So we'll sort out, Brent. Okay. I guess we'll coordinate here in the coming days with our community involvement team to get a different link sent out that can be used by those who are actively participating in the meeting, and then a link sent out for publicly observable purposes. And then we'll probably have you cancel your link so that there's no confusion.
That's perfect. And then I did see the email from Jim and then you that there was some issues with the link to the old MTAC meeting recordings. I will get that revised today and send that back out. Hopefully it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Okay. Thanks. That sounds good. I'm sorry, Jim. I don't know what's going. I don't know why my email hijacked everyone else's email there.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a lot of pokes.
Yeah.
Moving on to Northside Tailings, that's not till end of the year. And then Copper Mountain, end of June, we're looking at getting the DSR out for data collected last year.
Thanks, Scott. So we'll touch up a few of the missing items, the geotech for the haul route / slurry line alignment. Get this distributed as corrected to the group. Okay, so we'll dive in a little bit more detail. Some of these items, certainly a lot of documents flying around in the previous section, but maybe I'll just give a quick update on Lex. We've restarted work focusing on revegetation and landscape items at the restroom in plan in progress for a cast in place solution. So our intent is still to open that up towards the end of the summer for the community. Right now, we have to be a little bit careful with some of the nesting birds along the shoreline of the wetland system, but other than that, the project's going well. Casey Street water line. Let's kind of kick this to the AR team. I know Jacobs is working with their proposed subcontractor to get them under contract because our mobilization might be delayed a little bit. I think late June, maybe July now. It gives us a little bit more time to get people notified, public, community, and to coordinate activities with Butte Silverbow for that work. Go to you for any additions for the Casey Street line work, Troy?
Yeah, just that we're also engaging Union Pacific Railroad, with the AR team and working on access there. And then I guess, kind of the scope related to, connected to the houses and stuff and how we're gonna implement that and so forth. So those three items we're kind of working on, and we'll work to really identify a schedule, hopefully here in the next few weeks.
Thanks, Cord. Troy, any additions?
No, nothing from me, Josh.
Thank you. And just notice I breezed over PRW interim demo activities. Karen mentioned that we're in progress of planning the phase 2 activities, which really focus on the nose adjacent to Montana Street, foundations of the former stack, and a few other, like the remaining half of the furnace foundations, I believe. It seems, moving on to the slag wall mitigation, seems it may be best, Eric, for like Richfield to propose like mitigations related to the demolition of the slag wall outside of the freestyle boundary for use for Kate to consider. Just get it in writing and go from there. Is that something Butte Silverbow would want from us, so we can kind of close the loop on that wall and get that permit and finish the work?
I think that might be the best approach going forward, Josh. I'll also work on it internally with Butte Silverbow.
So I think that's what we'll do, just draft something up and say, hey, this is what we think is appropriate to close the loop. Slag wall demolition, get that out in front of Butte Silverbow from a historic preservation part, and related to the remedy, write something for potential impacts to the remedy, write something in there for EPA.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, Grove Gulch, we talked about agency review progress. Seems we may be having a discussion early next week or by mid next week. And hopefully we put those 4 or 5 different items to bed. With that, you know, we've been working on pre-mobilization submittals. I don't know, Andy, if you want to touch on the pre-mobilization submittals cord.
You know, yeah, we've started pulling together the execution plan, planning documents for Grove Gulch with the intent of, you know, mobilization here in May. So getting through you guys' comments, and it's going to be key to keeping that moving.
I guess, yeah, it's construction kickoff right now. The team's tuned into the plan for May 15th. And I don't know if I'd call it a full mob. It's more of a soft start getting pieces in place.
Yeah, I think you've got it, Josh. I mean, that's definitely our plan. And again, all the submittals and stuff are underway and should be ready to start issuing those internally and I guess as appropriate to agencies.
And I guess our intent was to draft, you know, similar public notifications like we've done in the past for, you know, nearby residences, and then also post those to BPSOU.com. And if other folks want to post in other locations, I think that's fine too. Any additional discussion on Grove Gulch? Did we miss anything? We'll talk about the helical piers, as-built sampling. The other ones, submittal procedures. Waste removal, excavation extents. Okay. All right. Repository siting study. We've got a final report prepared, just circulated that to the PMs of the stakeholder groups, looking for blessing to get that out. Unfortunately, these dates are wrong with the COC presentation and CTEC presentation. I think Council of Commissioners presentation, I believe, is on May 1st now. Eric, is that right?
That is correct, and I want to let the group know that's on me. I missed the submittal date for the Council of Commissioners meeting on the 24th.
And I think we'll need to coordinate with Joe and Dave to get back on the agenda for CTEC. I'm not certain when the best time would be for that, but Joe, I know you're on. Eric and I will reach out to you, figure out when that's best for you. CTEC group. And with that CLC presentation, I think it'll be one part, final repository screen updates for the Council of Commissioners, and the other part will be just general RDRA updates where we're at. Any comments on the repository siting study, the process in general? Moving on to the Berkeley pit, we have 2 QAPs out there. One QAP with work plan, the geotechnical investigation work plan and QAP. We received comments from the agencies on that. We have an internal meeting this afternoon to review those, and we'll circle back with the agencies as soon as we're prepared to. Cord, could you remind me when the intended mobilization date was on the geotech?
I believe it's June 10th. It's either 10th or 12th, that Monday.
Is that the 10th is correct?
Okay. And then Ramsey, we're in full coordination mode with Montana Resources, any owners along the alignment. Most of the properties either aligned for fields or views or bows. Eric, I do anticipate us needing to perhaps close the trail for brief periods of time, the walking trail along Upper Silverbill Creek. And of course, we'll provide public notifications for that work.
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
Anything else on geotech? Data gap QAP. Again, we got comments from the agencies that we had a nice discussion. We're working on integrating those comments to it, and Karen said, hope to turn that around. Comparative cost analysis. This is in support of agencies' review of the potential change related to addition of new repositories, most specifically the Berkeley pit. The record decision only contemplated use of Timber Butte and the Butte Mine Waste Repository as repository locations. We need to go back and make sure the record decision and the proposed work agree. And part of that is to kind of review costs of, for example, what does it cost to dispose of waste in the Butte Mine Waste Repository versus what would it potentially cost to dispose of the same waste in the Berkeley pit. Got a pretty good start on that. Need to talk with my management a little bit on to our legal before we kind of put a pin in it. But we made substantial progress on it, and it's 90% done.
Do you have an estimated timeline of when we'd be able to see that?
I don't want to put that out there without talking to management.
Sure. Okay, that sounds good.
ARR's analysis, same deal. We have a internal memo prepared by our legal counsel that did perform their ARR's analysis. Everything looks positive in our view. And for both of these, we kind of anticipating submitting them in support or as detailed evaluations in support of the repository site study. And I think that those two items, were there any other detailed evaluations in support of the ESD that the EPA team thought maybe needed beyond?
No, I think those are what the information that we were looking for from you and your team. I would say internally, and this just jumps into letter E there. Internally, we're working on understanding what kind of decision document, like you've talked about, that we'll need to memorialize a new repository location with. And we're meeting with BPSOU project manager too, to make sure that we're aligning closely there. So I think that's something that we'll just have to keep talking about too, that any impacts that BPSOU waste moving to BPSOU may have on BPSOU will need to be thought about, discussed, memorialized too. So yeah, we're meeting internally and re-kickstarting up that work to get a change in decision document made. So yeah, and we'll look forward to seeing that information from you all too, to help carry that along.
Yeah, we'll try to get those buttoned up. Other locations, a lot of the other locations are contingent upon the availability and waste acceptance of the Berkeley pit. So, we do anticipate that there will still be solid materials, right, that may be unsuitable for the Berkeley pit, whether that be oversized or municipal debris or what have you. So, some combination of the Berkeley pit and other locations is completely anticipated. What we're really focused on right now is waste acceptance criteria. So we do have those for the Butte Mine Waste Repository, for example. Municipal landfill has them. Our general working assumption is that those that are applicable to the Butte Mine Waste Repository may also be applicable to the Kelly Mine area if it's necessary. And then Shields Avenue, this is kind of the maybe location in my mind. So I'm not too worried about Shields Avenue, but if we were to use it, I would anticipate the same acceptance criteria. So I'm going to be working with the Pioneer team, Mark Meyer, and then maybe we'll try to wrap in Troy Colvin and Joe McElroy to kind of sketch out what we think are the suitable waste acceptance criteria based on ARR's regulation, make sure it's not hazardous waste, right? Draft those up and try to integrate those and have a conversation about them, kind of how they fit into the materials management plan. Because I think this is kind of our critical path as far as finishing the materials management plans to waste acceptance criteria.
It is the last piece.
Gotcha. And so that would all fall into, so for all of those locations, I guess, is the timing of that you're going to be developing the waste acceptance criteria for all of these locations prior to a siting committee recommendation, and just to have them available in case any of those locations are identified?
Yeah, effectively. Okay. Municipal landfill aside, they have their own waste acceptance criteria, so that makes it easy on us. Yeah. Butte Mine Waste Repository has existing waste acceptance criteria. Our working assumption is that those same acceptance criteria will apply to the other solid locations within BPSOU. And then, of course, Berkeley pit is different yet. So we'll be working on those internally. And then, of course, we'll need to discuss in full what we think the appropriate waste acceptance criteria may be within the Berkeley pit with Montana Resources. Try to go and, to you guys.
That ultimately is going to feed that material balance where it's going.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And that's all going to plan to be in the materials management plan.
Any other discussion on repository related items? So definitely putting our toe into the detailed evaluations from a technical perspective with the geotech and the data gap WAP, and also kind of the administrative component, if you will, with the current house analysis, ARR's analysis, EPA's work in the ESD. We're starting to consider waste acceptance criteria for applicable regulation. All right, Buffalo Gulch. I guess we'll just kind of kick it to the team, how things are going, where we're at with the design. I think we talked about the incentives in July.
Yeah, go for it. Sure. Yeah, we're just moving forward on our 95% design. So got an internal submittal here this week for ourselves, and then it'll go to AR a few weeks after that to you guys mid-July. There will be some changes, but I think we've kind of talked through those in regard to some of the documents that were submitted with the 60% are now site-wide. So whether those were just cover sheets that we had or like the greener cleanup report, we'll be pulling comments you guys plus 60% our response to comments and put that in with the site-wide submittal. I think that probably makes the most sense just to show how those comments were addressed. And then I think we'll also identify any changes in the tech specs between the May 1st submittal and the 95%.
That sounds good. I think just like from observation from the 95 to 100% on Grove Gulch, I think there's definitely, while we were looking through, there were some things that changed that weren't necessarily called out. So as much as you guys can call out where things have changed in the different deliverables, that's really helpful for our review too. So that we're not hunting and searching or like seeing something and then being like, does this look different? And having to go back and understand why it looks different. So yeah, I think as much as you guys can provide that, that's really helpful for us.
We got that called out at Diggings East.
Okay, great.
You know, there's a lot of changes like in specs and stuff like that. Those are almost impossible to flag, right?
Sure,
Without
yeah.
comparing the documents, but we're trying to hit a major design change that we've advanced or improved, or we try to call those out.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like those bigger items. And I think that's what we're looking for. And if, as much as you can, even if on little things, I don't think the straight across comparison is what we're looking for, but as much as you can, if there are things that, like, if we made a comment and it applies to multiple areas in the report, just noting all of the areas in the report that were updated because of that comment, even stuff like that can be helpful. So, as much as that is possible, that helps expedite our review to keep this schedule moving.
One, I think chords on it. I know we had planned and received approval to do some utility relocates. I believe the gas line and some overhead power poles by Fort Bay, and I think the gas line kind of cut through the northeast corner of the Buffalo Gulch site. Has the Jacobs team been working on that cord and been in contact with the utility providers?
Yeah, actually, we talked with them yesterday, Josh. So they're going back and going to gather the information from their previous conversations, and then we'll schedule a call with the engineering team as well to just kind of review, make sure we're catching everything. And so we did have that initial call with Northwestern Energy yesterday.
That's great. With the wells, if I remember right, we did receive approval to remove some of those wells that are in the way, like at our laydown yard that are out in the middle where those candles are by the job trailers. Maybe there's a handful more. And or are we still planning on those well abandonments there?
Yeah, we absolutely can. I don't think we have anything set up currently, Josh, but that's something that we can definitely get set up and get that implemented this summer. You bet.
Where was that? Sorry, I think you said that.
Time ago. Yeah. And we can bump that communication string.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Any other items on Buffalo Gulch? Any questions? Any other details? All right. Diggins East. Caleb.
So yeah, Diggins East, this week, we're anticipating our agency submittal for the 60%. And then we're anticipating, for our schedule, 60-day review period on that. It is a large package, and then our anticipated 95%. That will be, in the November timeframe. And so it's gonna be very critical to make sure we stay on track there with, to hit this milestone. But yeah, as Tim mentioned, the cover letter does a good job of highlighting, you know, site-wide stuff and anything else, you know, kind of major changes to the design, and it should be reflected throughout and laid out all there. So.
Is that, so this is my unfamiliarity with what the 30% looked like versus what we're anticipating with the 60%, but does that, would it warrant having a conversation with, like, when you guys submit it, we sit down and just have you guys quickly run through what, like, give us a high level overview of what those changes are so we can kind of have a heads up about it as we're starting to dive in?
Yeah, so I mean,
okay,
it's coming out this week. I mean, a couple weeks to digest it and have the conversation, or
sure. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. That way, yeah, I think there's a lot going on in these couple of weeks too. So if we have a couple of weeks to digest it, and then we can raise some initial questions maybe, but then schedule a call to just have that discussion. Because I think that I would like to see more of that too, of in between our reviews and in between your reviews of these comments, like more discussion rather than receiving comments and being like, this wasn't addressed, or you guys saying like, we're seeing this again, you know, that kind of, I think if we can have more conversations to work through those rather than waiting until we're just receiving those comments and then having to respond to them, I would like to see more of that, so.
And what do you think, the poll for like 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I agree with everything you guys were just talking about. I think, you know, a lot of times we'll see a comment and we're like, well, we feel we addressed it this way,
right,
conservatively such, but if we could, you guys could ask us that and we could show you why. I think that would help a long way.
Yeah,
and it would
yeah,
save a lot of time on each side.
I think so too.
And this thing is an elephant, so I think at least 2 weeks out, you know,
yeah, I should probably check with my CDM team too to see what all of our schedules look like.
and we can give you guys this, a quick, you know, at the start of the meeting, you know, a quick hit of what changed, and then your review team coming with, well, why'd you do this, or why'd you do, what's this, where's that type questions would, I think, go a long ways, and we can just dive into the weeds, right? It'll be a lot of the reviewers and the engineers talking. I think, and I said this before, in this Diggins East, you know, if you were to hand it to an electrician and say, hey, review the 60%, they're going to look and say, well, there's probably not 60% designed for like electrical or comms, stuff like that. But we've taken the environmental, you know, the removals, you know, the civil, the excavation and the rebuild, the end land use. We've taken that, I think, a lot farther than 60%, because we all need to align on that. And then once that's set, then we got a lot of engineering to do to fill in the details of electricals and all that other stuff. But we don't want to have to do that twice if we change the forebay or something like that. So, so I think it's good for us to spend a good day or half a day, you know, and just dive into it and go through the weeds. And I think that'll help everybody. So at least 2 weeks. And then, yeah, we can give you guys some slides that, or however we want to do it, that shows what changed. And then if you guys have questions, that would go.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Let's talk to Caleb and see what his capacity is to throw something together, and then we'll decide on when we'll send that poll.
Yes.
So either plus 2 weeks from this week, or probably plus 2, 3, 4 next week.
Yeah.
But I also don't want him to really interfere with review.
Right. Yeah. No, I think there's I will check with my team as well and talk about what makes the most sense for that. But
you guys probably know this, but we're trying to get Diggins East and Buffalo Gulch both final and IFCs, you know, a biddable package, constructible package next year, but biddable, you know, by the end of the year. So we're kind of trying to catch Diggins East up to Buffalo Gulch, but the goal is to get them both through IFCs, you know, so we have them moving forward next construction season.
Okay.
So Mike doesn't yell at us, IFCs is
Thanks, Josh.
Or in our remedial design schedule, it's 100%.
Yeah.
And just so you know, like on Diggings East, you know, once that 60% snow goes in, we're not gonna continue. We're going to continue progressing that design in the 95. So yeah, Tim, come out on the electrical, the instrumentation, all those mechanical systems, we're keeping moving. We're gonna hit that end of the year. Yep, we have to. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, just to that end too, it makes most sense for us to get in agreement as early as possible on any outstanding issues that there may be or issues that we're foreseeing too, so.
One thing I've learned on these designs is what seems like a little change of a forebay or of a pond has a catastrophic ripple effect through the entire design. It's amazing. So spending time together and getting your team, with our team and the engineers talking, I think it's.
Interim work plan, I don't know how valuable this is since we're, April now. Might as well just wrap this work into the design. Well, abandonment, utility work, things like that. So people don't know if you have a different perception. I know we were working on it with Andy a little bit, but it seems like we're just trying to rushing it, and it's not really a critical item if we need to be focusing on 95% design.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Any other Diggins East discussion?
Nothing on my end.
Didn't send.
North side tailings, let's go to Troy for this general update.
Okay, yeah, as far as I guess the schedule, I don't have any real update on that. I think it matches up with what's shown in the schedule. Still looking at December for that 60% submittal. As far as investigation, I'm working with Kyle Hollow, trying to get access to the UP property there and get the remaining investigation borings and piezometers in place. I do have a call sometime later this week with Kyle and UP, so hopefully after that call we'll be real close to getting that access. As far as the design progress, we're just in the early stages of the 60%, working on hydrology, tying into Diggins East, and then as well as the civil design elements, the lot, curbing, stormwater controls, things like that. That's about it. Like I said, the 60% submittal, I guess being new to the group, I don't know any different, but that's the date we're shooting for, early December.
Thanks, Troy. Same kind of concept, the interim work plan. I don't know if there's value in pursuing that at this point outside of the general work. But, especially, the wells in particular when we're still working through GWRO and things like that. But any additional discussion on north side tailings? So 60% kind of by the end of the year, and it sounds like we'll be shooting for IFCs in 25.
Yeah, this is Ian with CTEC. The conversations with UP, those are just about the PDI data collection, is my understanding. And does UP have to transfer ownership for Northside Tailings to be constructed?
Yeah, right now we're just working on the access component just to perform the investigation. Then independent of that, we'll pursue ownership again.
Okay. And do you guys have any feedback? Is UP responsive? It seems like the access discussions have been being pursued for a long time.
Yeah, well, we kind of let it fester for a little bit on our side too, but yeah, we kind of kicked it off the access agreement discussions for redesign investigation, and then we'll follow that up. Property acquisition.
So you guys don't see roadblocks there?
No.
Okay, good to hear. Thanks.
Thanks, Ian. ERW, Karen.
Yeah, as far as a general schedule update goes, our team's working on wrapping up the PDI evaluation report, hoping to submit that to agencies in June. So that'll include all of the updated data and interpretation through phase 3, as well as the surface water sampling we did. It won't include the biotreatability study results or the final geotech analysis, which we're hoping to complete this year. So that goes into the remaining investigation work. The enhanced biotreatability study we did, we're waiting on the final report from AECOM, hoping to have that within the next week or two. And that doesn't really change much of the BRW's design. It'll more inform the materials management or land farming, like the hydrocarbon treatment plan. And then the geotech analysis, we're working with LDI to make sure we know where buildings and bridges are going so that we can do that final geotech work this year. As far as design goes, we're moving that along as much as we can. Hoping to focus on that more in the next coming months to submit in October of this year. And then the interim work plan for the phase 2, Josh touched on that. Hoping to have that in the next probably coming month to agencies, but we're working on looking at some floodplain modeling, removal of the slag nose and the stack foundation, just because we're in a zone A area there, and the floodplain that's mapped is pretty, I'm gonna say it's very accurate. So we're making sure that what we're doing there isn't gonna affect anything.
With the phase 2, even though we may have the work plan done, it may have to wait till fall, winter, because all roads under construction this summer, Excelsior. So we may need to delay the work a little bit. Or just stockpile it, we did a lot of stockpiling in phase 1, so we'll see what we can do to be efficient with our contractor and not put trucks unnecessarily on Excelsior while they're performing those road upgrades. Any other peat reduction works items?
Just a quick question, clarification for Aaron. So treatability studies, you said we're gonna land under BRW or something else?
I think the materials management plan in support of the land farming component.
Yeah, I mean, the data, so the data and the DSRs will go within BRW's evaluation report, but it doesn't really, the way BRW's evaluation report is written is basically those are going to inform those other plans. So it won't change our design, but since it's a QAP under BRW, we'll have the DSR and the data underneath it.
Same for Buffalo Gulch.
That makes sense.
And I thought there's some questions with that, Emma, so hopefully that provides the clarity on where the land farming stuff is landing.
Okay.
Okay. Groundwater from the optimization, Brent hit on a few of these items, but I've got a meeting next week. Brent, any additions here?
No, I mean, we've got, really our focus is on the site-wide groundwater model. We're, actively addressing those comments from the EPA and getting that incorporated into, revision 2 model. So we'll go through a lot of that. Leak detection and monitoring system. We have also a scrum set up to discuss that, as well as the BTL stress test. So we're moving all of those forward pretty quickly and simultaneously. So I apologize in advance for all the meeting requests, but I think they'll be all beneficial, and we'll push those documents forward in the next, I think, month for the most part.
Thanks, Brent. Any questions in the room or on the phone surrounding groundwater remedy optimization? I think our intent with everything groundwater is to kind of push it along, catch it up to the extent practical, so we can have, co-located construction activities occurring at the same time.
Maybe one quick point to provide to these guys. So he's described how the leak detection is kind of being pulled out as like a program level document across the board, more or less lumping all those together. But the capillary break evaluations are all gonna land within each site.
That's something I think we probably worth mentioning was that in the Diggings East package, you guys will see the first capillary break design memo. Got a version of that, so that's new. First time to see it.
Okay. Moving on to more groundwater with Brent, BTC hydraulic control. I think he touched on all these items in general.
Yeah. And so we're going to go through a lot of the comments or all of the comments from the EPA on the PDI ER. And that'll be next week. Hoping to get that revised and resubmitted. There was a comment regarding the PDI WP. We're going to go through that on our meeting next Wednesday, but I know when we put together the QAP originally, it was all agreed that we weren't going to submit it under a PDI WP, and we went straight to a PDI ER. So we can go through that further and provide some of that detail in past conversations. So, and then, like I said, anticipated 30% is anticipated for, I think June 1st is right now the anticipated date. But again, the PDI ER and the 30% design are on parallel tracks there.
Thanks, Brent.
And any questions?
Touched on the program plans a little bit. We have the tech specs nearing completion. Can't remember when we thought we'd submit this. Sorry, in a couple weeks, I think.
I think it's end of the month.
End of the month.
Or sooner.
Tim's always the or super guy.
We're pulling that together. We just gave ourselves till May 1st.
Yeah.
And that will be a 60% tech spec package. And then what the intent of turning around the 95% package when Buffalo Gulch goes in.
And it will be the supplemental tech specs for Diggins East. And one thing, you're kind of highlighting that you want us to identify where all the changes are. I think we'll be able to provide some summary level on the tech spec changes from what maybe you've seen before to maybe between the 60 and the 95, but it's going to be really hard to track all of the changes we make on the specs because there's a pile of detail on all those.
Sure. Yeah. I think as much as it makes sense, I guess. Yeah. I mean, if you just put yourself in the shoe of a reviewer who would need to look through and see any updates, I think whatever that means to you probably is what it would mean to us. So I think, and we can work on that too. I mean, I think if we're getting things that we're like, okay, we're still seeing a lot of changes, please call things like this out in the future. We'll communicate that to you as well. Or if we're getting things that we're like, okay, that's too much information. We didn't need that much information. We'll communicate that. So
generally we're aligning materials from the different designs.
Mhm.
So we have similar materials for liner, similar materials for aggregates, all that stuff, and then just clean it.
So there's a lot, from the 60 to 95, there's a lot of specs that electrical, that you guys won't get, right? Stuff like that. We're trying to call things the same, the same type of aggregates on the different designs. We got different design engineers, we got different electrical, so just trying to get all that aligned to where they're standard. But we took basically the versions of specs that were in Lexington and Grove Gulch, which were far beyond 60, right? Because they're basically final. And we started with them. So again, a lot of the specs would be much farther than 60%, but we did reformat them. We tried to get them all consistent, all the same format, all the same font, all the same terminology, everything like that. So there's a lot of these spec things that when you see it, it'll look different. The actual spec stuff that's in there is a lot of the same. Given that it's a program-wide one, you guys will probably start fresh review of that, because they do look a lot different than Grove. But the whole point of making them program wide is it's going to be a little painful to get them final, but once we do, we won't have to go through them again 6 more times for every design package. So it'll help in the end. It'll be painful getting there.
This may not be I don't know enough at this point about all of these program plans and maybe this question is not the best question about this, but a question I have is, I mean, you're proposing to have this 95 or get these plans finalized to a point with the designs coming through right now, but is there information from Northside Tailings or BRW or those designs that'll still be in progress that need to contribute to that?
Similar features, but they come in the acceptance we don't, we'll provide those supplemental specs.
Okay.
Or detail, the except on trying. For example, if for some reason we require epoxy coated rebar at the Northside Tailings for some reason, and we provide a supplemental spec for epoxy coated rebar.
Okay.
Yeah. So as we're finalizing these other ones, the engineers will go back, read the program-wide specs, just like a Montana Public Works spec, they use for pipe, and they'll read it and they'll be like, well, that doesn't quite apply to what I want. So then they'll add a note on the construction drawing that says modify such and such specification to include epoxy coating or whatever. And then that's how we'll do that, move forward. So.
And for these other program lights items, I mean, if there's a one-off after we get them approved, we could just do the RFC process. We learned something new at Northside Tailings down the road, and we've got the CQAP all final. Somehow it has an impact. See that. Incorporate that.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the conversation when we get to finalizing those plans is making sure we understand what that looks like for the plans that are closer to being finalized versus the plans that are anticipated down the road, and make sure we're all on the same page of what we would anticipate or what we would expect. Changes are there.
It'll be a big push now, but it'll pay enough later. It's the exact same kind of what has been done in Anaconda with site-wide specs. Gotcha. Something's different as design progresses, it's supplemental. No one wants to review 10 specs every sort of one time.
CCAP, QAP, CMQAP, Karen said we've got the CQAPing for internal review, and then we'll follow up the CMQAP. So CQAP, I can't remember when we thought we may set out, might be a bit yet. Kind of up to us now to review done, huh?
Yeah, I had it as next Friday going to agencies, but
better read it.
It's been.
Might be a little optimistic.
That was just the deadlines I was. So I guess you guys adjust as you see fit.
Okay.
I would think that maybe a few more weeks. But Karen,
I think
I'm not gonna complain. Wait, put it that way.
I think we started from a pretty decent place with the Grove Gulch CQAP, and it's not going to be drastically different than that. So it's nothing new and major coming.
That CMQAP, I think, might be a little more detailed. When I think of the CMQAP, I think of the environmental a little bit. So, we had the air monitoring, it fold in some groundwater discharge monitoring,
Yeah, so
things like that. So
it'll have, similar to Grove Gulches, it'll have the import soil sampling, air monitoring, and groundwater discharge. The one thing that'll be pretty new is basically whatever comes from the materials management plan as far as characterizing the excavated materials.
So that one will be I'd say down the road further, somewhat paired up with the material management plan. I don't know if we could progress it without landing that material management plan.
we'd have to think about TBD.
Right, too many TBDs. Okay. So we'll work that in conjunction with the MMP, which is our next item. Kind of spoke earlier about kind of our critical items in that being those waste acceptance criteria. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna have Pioneer team dive into that, and we'll try to work at MR as related to the Brooklyn pit, and then with BPSOU as related to landfill, which is already established, mine waste repository, which is already established, and try to apply mine waste repository to Kelly mine area as needed, and then Shields Avenue if everything falls. It has to be based on our materials balance. It's the only reason we'd ever consider using Shields Avenue. So that's out of it. O&M plan, so the Stantec team is working on this. I don't know, Brent, if you have a general update on the O&M plan, how the team's doing.
Yeah, I think we're just at the preliminary phases as far as scoping it out and looking at developing that outline. So I don't have a too much of an update for that right now. But hopefully next month we'll have a little better idea of what that's looking like.
Some of our original concepts with the structure of this would be similar to Old Works Golf Course, where, the golf course is a remedy, but of course it's got inland use on top. And certain components of the inland use are not related to remedy. So it's almost two parts, right? One part remedy, one part inland use for the features or amenities, if you will. And similar to the specs, we know in general what components are being integrated for over in land use. And if there's any need for deviation or to change it as we go. I don't anticipate the OM and M plan being final until we get through the 2-year operational and functional period. So we want to have something in place, good structure. And something else we need to consider is really that operational and functional plan, which I consider effectively the same as the shakedown plan. So when we're in that 2-year period following, substantial completion, we have a path, or we know what we're doing during that 2-year O&F period. What do we do to, when do we make the decision to adjust like our discharge or whatever it may be? So to optimize the performance during that 2-year O&F period.
You see it, Josh, as a one final O&F period, or Buffalo Gulch its O&F first?
I think we manage on an individual basis, so we can kind of get ahead of the curve for the performance of each one as they come online. That seems to make more sense to me. That way we're not trying to do it with all the basins at once, So for Grove Gulch, for example, if we finish construction in early 2025 and would implement the 2-year O&F period, would run through early 2027. And during those 2 operating seasons of 25 and 26, effectively, we would try to dial it in. And then it's kind of set to the side, but the KRE CCR is not submitted until all the projects are done. So, there may be a lag between completion of the O&F period for Grove Gulch versus that for, say, Diggins East. Or say Tailings, probably a better example because it's the most lagging. But once we get the KRE CCR in, then we start the clock on the compliance on determination period. 9 to 12 years.
And that's similar to, just move through all that as you get it.
That's how I read it. Set free freestyle surface water management plan. Sorry.
That's something I need to read more to understand.
Yeah. We got no time. We gotta go. Greener cleanups, and we just got she provided a draft because all the design teams integrate project-specific items related to greener cleanups. I think we had a really robust document with Grove Gulch, and it'll only be supplemented. So I can't remember what we were shooting for submittal on that, but it seems like everything's fallen in May. That sometime in May.
May 17th is that Friday, kind of in the middle.
Oh, we're far away.
I know it's almost May. Any questions on these program plans? Our intent is to simplify and to streamline, all the documents because they such similar items within each project that it doesn't make sense to manage them in. Okay, let's move on to Copper Mountain.
Yeah, so we are planning to submit the DSR for kind of the phase 1 app. So it's all the data collected through 2023 for Copper Mountain towards the end of June. We're continuing the quarterly sampling and reconnaissance for seeps, and then starting to implement more of the one-off tasks that were described under the QAPs, like collecting a lot of site-specific data to support the update of the conceptual site model. So got a weather station so that we can form the water balance, working with BSB to understand their irrigation schedule, how much water they are applying to the fields up there. And then some of the other work that was described under that clap was like a storm drain investigation and then some infiltration testing. So we're starting to get that work planned out.
One item maybe flag for you, Emma. We got a request for access to the Timber Butte repository. It's kind of up above our mountain park, Western Energy. I'm not quite certain of what their request is. Either they have utilities and through it and they want to put a gas line through it, or they simply want to use it as a staging area. Trouble is it's a repository that needs to be maintained to meet freeze specifications. So for performance. So Kyle and I are working with, Kyle's our land guy. He's working with their team to figure out what their intent is. I'll circle back with you if I think it needs to raise.
You said Northwestern Energy? Okay.
Hey, Josh, this is Eric. We've been working with them as well, and my understanding that it is a gas line replacement. It's going to be phased, and phase 1 will start south of Copper Mountain and go south, and phase 2 will run through the Copper Mountain area, Montana Pole, and up to their substation. That's my understanding of it as of now.
You know if their alignment cuts through the Timber Butte repository, or
it's down in the, from the alignment that we've seen, it appears to be in the unreclaimed area immediately east of the repository.
Okay.
But that's just looking at the maps they have provided without much detail, just an alignment map. So I don't think so, but I won't say positively.
Maybe I'll have a phone call with Sorensen to see what he knows about it.
There's an existing access through that old railroad embankment as well.
There is, and it's a replacement of that line. So,
gotcha.
And everything we have heard from them to this point is they're going to try to keep it in the same alignment as much as possible.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. That's useful. Blacktail Creek repairing actions. This is a DEQ's opportunity. I don't know if Logan's on. Got Daryl here. Any DEQ updates on Blacktail repairing?
I don't have anything, so I'm not sure, and I didn't see Logan on.
What was the schedule that was in the plan that was sent out? Do you recall?
No, I don't.
They asked for a 30-day review for time. I have not looked at the schedule within the plan yet.
I think I saw construction in 26. I think it was 27. That's the one thing I'll keep working with Logan on. Make sure we're coordinated as far as activities. Okay. Jim, anything from NRD on Remedial restoration or other NRD activities?
No, not really, Josh. Again, we're just looking for opportunities where possible to coordinate remedy with restoration, with the focus being groundwater.
Good. Thanks, Jim. Any questions for Jim? Okay. And Dudding just texted me. Oh, he's on the call. Logan, do you have any updates?
He muted? Do I need to?
I don't know if he's muted or maybe he wasn't added as a presenter.
Yeah, let me chat Catherine really quick.
Maybe as we work on that, we'll move on to community engagement. So just want to make sure we're communicating with the folks around Lakes and Woodlands, let them know we're still doing work and just say hi, things like that. And we'll do the same for Grove Gulch, Casey Street. When those projects get near to kicking off. Walking path, for our geotechnical investigation, we'll have some rigs out there. So we'll probably put some temporary fencing when necessary, definitely some signage, barricades to keep people out of the work zones. don't know if it will result in full closure, Eric, of any certain locations, but we'll work with you and Public Works or Parks and Rec on coordination of those activities when we get to the walking path. And again, we'll make postings on BPSOU.com or other appropriate media outlets to notify folks. Upcoming meetings, again, got this agenda out before we got these dates finalized, but we won't be presenting to the council until May 1st, and then we need to reschedule the CTEC following that. And again, for any updates people are looking for, always check BPSOU.com. Try to provide, pertinent updates to the community as work rolls through, anything that may be of interest. So always check that out. Anything else on community engagement? Anybody up? Do we have any upcoming EPA community updates or aware of?
We are talking internally about when to schedule our next meeting. So we'll be reaching out with everyone to make sure it works for all parties and works for the community of Butte too. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Logan happen to have audio?
Our CIC team online are not seeing him on.
He must be in his viewer or something.
That's what, yeah. So I asked them to forward him the participant link. Sorry, Logan, if you're hearing us talk about you.
Logan did get in their PDI work plan, I think that's what they submitted. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's under EPA review right now. It's the general update. Sorry, Logan.
Yeah, and Logan, Catherine just tried to send you the link, but it looks like you should have the link and should have the ability to talk. So you might just have microphone issues. Might be going on. No. Technology.
Let's move on to roundtable. I don't know, Emma, you want to pick anything up in the midst or be focused on?
Yeah, I don't have much else to add. I think just thanks for everyone's patience as I'm still getting up to speed on everything. I think certainly reach out and give me a phone call if you have any questions. I'm happy to talk things over. I think that helps with the efficiency that's going on and on how quick of a schedule we have with all of these activities. And I'll try and do the same to communicate, to update where we are at with our reviews and any discussions that we need to have. So yeah, I think I'm happy to be part of this team, and I'm hoping that we can keep working really collaboratively and work towards getting all of these projects implemented in the coming years. So.
Daryl? Oh, nothing more to add. Jim?
Yeah, Josh, I don't think I have anything directly to add. I will say we've got a construction project on Blacktail Creek at the golf course that we're going to go out to bid for later this summer, construction windows in the winter. So we're rerouting the creek, putting in a fish screen, taking out a barrier, and taking out a bunch of fill material. So it's not directly related to your guys' activities, but we'll want to make sure that we're coordinated on it if there are any, water quality concerns or anything like that.
That's great. Thanks, Jim. Eric?
Not much, Josh. I just want to thank the group for the high level of coordination that we have at this point, and due to how complicated this project is and is going to be to bring to fruition, that coordination is key at this point, and I appreciate everybody's work right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. I don't have anything to add, just looking forward to that discussion next week on agriculture, so we can try to get that to construction. Okay, I think that brings our meeting to a close. I think maybe we should discuss this agenda. I don't know how valuable it is to go through the project. Maybe we can take half the time, for example, to really dive into some of the details on an upcoming submittal, in addition to planning these one-offs or something.
Sure.
I think that'd be more productive for us in general than just kind of really regurgitating schedule updates.
Yeah. I think especially as there's more and more things coming through too. I think, yeah, that sounds good to me. And so this is the third Thursday or Tuesday, 1, 2, 3, it's the fourth Tuesday. So I guess, do we want to target May 21st as the next one
So
okay.
I think the placeholder should be out there with mine and then how we've been managing it once EPA team gets the team slide event set up, I'll just cancel.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then, I guess from here, Emma pinged me last night with an email. It's like, hey, are we able to meet in the Kelly? It's just, those folks that are participating in the meeting, if you want to show up in the Kelly in person, please do during these calls.
Okay.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody's time. If you have any questions, just reach out to whoever appropriate respective teams and keep advancing these. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.